Welcome to the TOEFL Listening section. In this section, you will listen to an academic lecture and then answer questions about what you heard. You may take notes while you listen. You will have time to review your notes before answering the questions. Listen to part of a lecture in a university class. You will hear the lecture only once, so listen carefully. After the lecture, you will answer some questions about what you heard. Some questions ask about the main ideas and supporting details. Other questions ask you to make inferences or connections between ideas. Answer each question based on what is stated or implied in the lecture.
Good morning. Today we will explore tapestry weaving traditions and how medieval methods compare with modern practice. Tapestry is a weft-faced textile where the weft threads completely cover the warp threads to form the visible image. That technical distinction underpins many choices in design and material. Medieval European workshops produced large narrative works commissioned by courts and churches. Workshops in Flanders and at the Gobelins in Paris organized teams of weavers who followed full-scale cartoons. The cartoons were painted or drawn templates placed behind or under the warp to guide color and shape. A famous medieval example is the Apocalypse tapestry in Angers. It tells a long narrative and demonstrates typical features of medieval technique. The wefts are wool, and silk was used for highlights. Metallic threads were sometimes couched on the surface for sparkle. Technically, medieval weavers used methods such as slit tapestry, where adjacent color areas are left with small slits, and interlocking or dovetailing to join different color sections. Hachure and hatching were used to blend tonal shifts by alternating short weft segments. These techniques allowed painters to be translated into textile form even though the weave is fundamentally different from painting. Workshops differentiated between high warp looms and low warp looms. High warp looms, or haut-lis, are vertical and allow the weaver to see the cartoon behind the warp. Low warp or base lisse looms are horizontal. Both have advantages for scale and control. Dyeing was central to medieval tapestry. Natural dyes and mordants produced a restricted but rich palette that weavers layered to get desired tones. The color system influenced iconography because particular pigments were expensive and signaled status. Moving to the 20th century, there was a strong revival of tapestry as an art form. Artists like Jean Lurçat simplified composition, emphasized large color fields, and treated tapestry as an autonomous medium rather than a painted copy. Lurçat worked with the Gobelins and helped re-establish tapestry in public art commissions. Modern studio weavers combined traditional weft-facing techniques with experimental materials and processes. Some use cotton or synthetic yarns, industrial looms including jacquard for repeat patterns, or off-loom techniques for sculptural results. The studio movement also returned control to individual weavers, who design and execute their own cartoons or work freehand. Contemporary practices also adapt tapestry for new functions. Museums and conservation projects preserve historic pieces. Designers commission modern tapestries as acoustic panels, architectural installations, and statements in public art. The technical vocabulary remains useful when communicating with conservators about stitches, dye stability, and structure. When examining a tapestry, look for the weft structure, the presence of slits or interlocks, and the way shading is achieved through hachure or pointillist weft techniques. These details tell us whether a piece follows medieval workshop practice or modern studio experimentation. I mentioned Jean Lurçat because his simplified palettes and flattened forms helped revive tapestry as a modern art form and showed how traditional techniques could be reinterpreted for the 20th century. In summary, medieval tapestry traditions provided a complex toolkit of materials and methods. Modern weavers draw on that toolkit while adding new materials and purposes. Understanding technical vocabulary and historical examples helps us evaluate both conservation needs and contemporary design choices.
Listen again to part of the lecture. Then, answer the question.
I mentioned Jean Lurçat because his simplified palettes and flattened forms helped revive tapestry as a modern art form and showed how traditional techniques could be reinterpreted for the 20th century.
This concludes the listening section. For more TOEFL practice tests and study materials, visit Spinta.org.